Twilight and Chrysalis Switch Jobs by Not a Pipe. Twilight sized up the chair as she approached it. Made of mahogany, it looked uncomfortable in the way only really expensive furniture could get away with. Its only saving grace was a worn pillow on the seat, which Twilight lowered herself onto. She moved around in an effort to get comfortable, gave up, and added an entry to her mental checklist to go furniture shopping. Having taken care of the immediate business, she finally turned and looked at the horde of changelings surrounding her. They looked back, waiting. 2 hours earlier. "Why would I do that? I don't know anything about ruling changelings," said Twilight. Spike came rushing down the stairs, waving an open scroll. "Twilight, Princess Celestia just sent a letter asking you to switch positions with Queen Chrysalis. Something about a diplomatic exchange. Also, you can't take any books because you'll take too long to pack." Chrysalis just smiled. "Now." Twilight cleared her throat. "I've been asked by Queen Chrysalis to take up leadership duties for the Hive for a period of 1 week, after which she will return and resume her rank and legislative duties. Are there any questions?" No one spoke. A cricket-like sound came from the back of the chamber. Twilight wondered if a changeling had made the noise. She continued. "As I have little experience with ruling and no experience ruling changelings, I might need a little assistance from you. And Queen Chrysalis didn't leave any exact instructions, so some advice would be good. Or an instruction manual." The changelings continued to do nothing. Meanwhile, Chrysalis was poking a book with her hoof. Spike had watched her explore Twilight's bedroom, going through her desk and looking at her clothes. At one point she had stopped and spent some time styling her hair to look like Twilight's, and was wearing a pair of her saddlebags. Once she finished upstairs, she started to examine the library proper. Watching Chrysalis look at books with a Twilight level of attention only served to increase Spike's unease. Suddenly, Chrysalis spun around to face him.
"You, minion!"
snapped Chrysalis. "Yes, ma'am." Spike stood at attention.
"What exactly does Twilight do here?"
"She lends out books and helps ponies." Chrysalis interrupted him.
"Not the library. That's just a hobby, like knitting or impersonating princesses. What does she do here to study friendship?"
Spike paused for a moment, his brow creasing. "Well, she visits her friends and sees if she can help them with anything." Chrysalis started for the door.
"Then we shall do the same. Come, minion."
Spike followed without protest. Twilight was still attempting communication. "Seriously, girls, or guys?" She waved her hooves in the air. "Or whatever! Give me something, a sticky note even!" The changeling swarm continued its silence, perhaps practicing for the group stage of the next World Championship of keeping quiet. Chrysalis and Spike walked away from Fluttershy's cabin. "But you didn't actually help her with anything," protested Spike.
"She's no longer afraid of me, so that counts,"
replied Chrysalis.
"It wasn't even that hard. I just had to turn into the most harmless creature I could think of."
"You turned into her. I still think she might have thought someone placed a mirror on her doorstep," countered Spike.
"Nonsense. I solved the problem she had, therefore I'm doing Twilight's job according to what you said. Who's next?"
"Please say something," begged Twilight. "Anything." She had gotten off the throne and was now trying individual changelings. "What's your favorite color? Favorite song?" The changeling under questioning recoiled slightly.
"I think that went well,"
said Chrysalis. She and Spike were walking away from the Sweet Apple Acres. "All you did was tell Applejack you hated apples," replied Spike. He was picking bits of apple from his scales. "I even got her to calm down and listen after you showed up at her door and then you had to go and insult apples. Why would you do that?"
"Twilight's notes were very clear on telling your friends if they did something that bothered you. I was just applying them."
"You know what? Fine. Don't talk to me." Twilight had begun to twitch. "Since none of you seem to want to give me advice on how to run an entire nation, I'll just start making stuff up. And my first decree is that I need a drink." A changeling immediately left to fetch one. Chrysalis was sitting on a chair in the library while Spike paced the floor. "So Rarity didn't need any help modeling, and Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash were at home. How can you say you're done learning about friendship?" asked Spike.
"I offered assistance to a friend, and whether she took it or not is immaterial," said Chrysalis. "And if the other two are out of town, well, obviously I can't do anything more."
"And the worst thing is I'm not even sure when she's testing me or not," Twilight was sobbing gently into her hoof, the remnants of several drinks on a stand next to the throne. Sometimes I just want a simple task without any hidden meaning behind it. Is that too much to ask? The drone who had been serving drinks gave Twilight a half-hearted pat on the shoulder. Princess Celestia was presiding over court, and was about ready to end the day's session when a new petitioner walked in. The hooded pony proceeded to push through the crowd until they stood in front of the throne, where they tapped the hoof 3 times on the polished marble floor. At the signal, changelings throughout the throne room began to reveal themselves as more poured in from outside. The royal guards stationed inside immediately raised their weapons and prepared to defend the princess, only to find that none of the changelings were attacking. Instead, they all stood behind the hooded figure. Celestia told the guards to hold, and waited. After a moment, the hooded pony stepped forward and removed their cloak. Twilight stood in front of the changelings. "What brings you to Canterlot, Twilight?" asked Celestia. Twilight tried to dig her hoof into the floor. "It's been kind of a long week. I couldn't really figure out what to do, so I sort of tried to copy what I knew Chrysalis had done. Except Cadence was in the Crystal Empire, and I didn't want to wake Luna, so I had to kidnap and impersonate myself." Celestia raised an eyebrow. "You decided to invade Canterlot?" she asked. Twilight ducked her head in embarrassment. "It seemed like the best option. I really just came by to get some love from my parents. But from what I could understand, it seemed like I had to do this first." Celestia gave an understanding smile. "It seems like you had a difficult week. Chrysalis has told me she enjoyed her time in Ponyville, and I think she's learned a lot about the magic of friendship. Do you think your time among changelings has given you a valuable lesson?" Twilight thought hard for a second. Had losing her temper, drinking more than was good for her, invading Canterlot taught her anything? "No," she said, and walked away.